Hi, this is Alessio. I hope you're well. In this video, I want to talk to you about the chart of Bitcoin. As you can see, this is the pattern we're dealing with right now, the chart of Bitcoin. So I want to take a look at this chart and explain to you what my good friend Manuel Bay, trader Manuel Bay of Dow Theory, is saying about Bitcoin. And one key signal, which if it triggers, could be very important for the crypto. All right, guys, join me. All right, guys, welcome back. Before we dig into the chart of Bitcoin, let me just tell you briefly where I am. I'm in central London by the Thames River and in Waterloo. Very soon, I'm going to be listening to 6 hours of German music. More specifically, it's 6 hours of German classical music. It's the music of Richard Wagner. It's the fourth part of his Ring cycle, The Twilight of the Gods. Anyway, it should be quite interesting. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. Now, as you can see here, Bitcoin since March has been consolidating in this sideways pattern. As you can see here, what could be potentially a corrective ABC pattern. By the way, the same thing's happening on Ethereum as well. It's been consolidating here as well in what could also be an ABC corrective pattern. Anyway, so far both Bitcoin and Ethereum are holding above the April lows. Now recently I had a chat on email with trader and analyst Manuel Bay of Dow Theory, who, by the way, I think is a fantastic analyst and is someone whose opinion about the markets I really respect. Now what Manuel Bay said to me recently was this, that if Bitcoin and Ethereum, if both of them drop and close below the April lows, that could trigger what's called a Dow Theory bearish signal or a Dow Theory sell signal. Now, I should say, as I'm making this video, neither Bitcoin or Ethereum have dropped below the April lows. So currently, both cryptos are holding above their respective April lows. For example, the April low on Bitcoin is about 59K or 60K. However, what Manuel Bay of the Dow Theory is saying is that if both cryptos, both Ethereum and Bitcoin, were to drop and close below their respective April lows, below the lows they made in April, that could trigger what's called a Dow Theory bearish signal. Now, let me explain to you essentially what that means very briefly. A Dow Theory bearish signal is formed when Bitcoin, for example, and Ethereum drop by at least 15 to 20% against the dominant trend being upwards. So because both markets have dropped by at least 10 to 15% from peak to trough from March to April, that is what's called a secondary reaction against the dominant trend. Then the Dow Theory requires a bounce of at least 10% on both charts, on both Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then the third criteria, the third part of the rules is if both markets, if both cryptos, Ethereum and Bitcoin, were to drop and close below the lows they made before the bounce, which in this case would be the lows they made, the support they made in April. Okay, now, again, let me just repeat this point. Neither chart, neither Bitcoin nor Ethereum have dropped below their respective April lows. It's only if both Bitcoin and Ethereum were to drop below the lows of April, that could trigger a Dow Theory bearish signal or a Dow Theory sell signal according to the rules of the Dow Theory in the view of Manuel Bay of dowtheory.com. And this would mean that if such a thing happens, if both charts, if both markets were to drop below the April lows, it could significantly increase downside risk. So what that means is, according to Manuel Bay, if both Bitcoin and Ethereum were to drop below the April lows, that means we should be on alert, because such a signal, if it occurs, would be a warning sign that both markets, both Ethereum and Bitcoin, could drop significantly lower. For example, if Bitcoin were to drop below the April lows, it could increase momentum towards, for example, 55 to 50K. Now, let me say this. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. It's only if something like this were to happen, if both Bitcoin and Ethereum were to drop below the April lows, all it means is we should be careful, we should be very cautious and on alert, because it could increase downside risk and momentum towards lower levels. Again, for example, Bitcoin could drop to the trend line you're seeing here, or for example to 50K, or even lower levels. So it's really important, therefore, for Bitcoin and Ethereum to protect and stay above the April lows, which again on Bitcoin is about 59K, and on Ethereum is about the level you see right there, about 2,800 or so. Now let me give you my own views about this very briefly. Personally, I think that Manuel Bay is right. We should be careful if Bitcoin and Ethereum were to drop below the April lows. It would be a warning sign. So he's right about that. My own personal view is that as long as Bitcoin stays above this trend line you're seeing here, this white line you're seeing on the chart, and as long as Bitcoin stays above 50K, key support, I'm still remaining cautiously bullish for this year on Bitcoin and Ethereum. In other words, as I said before in the previous video, it's only if Bitcoin were to drop below 50K or below the trend line and below 50K, then to me, that would be a sign of a top in Bitcoin and potentially Ethereum as well. So far, as I'm making this video, that has not happened. So I'm still remaining bullish for Bitcoin and Ethereum, even if we see a slightly lower drop on Bitcoin or Ethereum. For example, if Bitcoin were to drop down to the trend line, or for example, to 56 or 55K, all I'm saying is as long as Bitcoin stays above 50K, and as long as it stays above the trend line, again, I'm going to give the bulls the benefit of the doubt. In other words, I'm still remaining cautiously bullish for the next several months, for example, to the end of the summer period, or at least to the end of this year. So guys, as I'm making this video right now, there is no warning sign as yet for Bitcoin or Ethereum because both of them are above the April lows. But again, do remember what Manuel Bay said, because if both these charts, if both markets, if both Bitcoin and Ethereum were to drop below the April lows, that would put us on alert. That would be a huge warning sign of potential downside risk to lower levels. For example, to 55K, to 50K on Bitcoin, or even lower levels. But again, as I said in this video, even if that happens, as long as Bitcoin stays above the trend line, and as long as it stays above 50K, I still think we could see higher levels in Bitcoin in the next several months, potentially by the end of the summer period, to the higher targets I mentioned before in my previous videos. But also, as I mentioned previously, if Bitcoin were to drop below 50K, if Bitcoin were to break this trend line and then fall below 50K, I would have to change my mind and become bearish. But I'm not bearish. For now, I still see this pattern on Bitcoin as a corrective pattern. Same with Ethereum. I still think this pattern is corrective. I think both cryptos, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are forming corrective patterns, corrections, before potentially we see higher levels in the next several months, again, to the higher targets that I mentioned previously. All right, guys, I'm going to go now and see what this German music, the 6 hours of Wagner's music, the ring cycle is going to be like. I've never seen it before being performed, so it should be interesting. Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to seeing the next video update. Bye for now.